Okay, I'm just going to do a very brief intro to Onshape. I have already signed up and logged in. I then can click the Create button in the top left, give it a name. It creates a workspace for me. It takes a minute to load up. These three boxes I see here, I can sort of change the highlighting between them. This is just giving me a frame of reference for which direction I'm looking at. So if, for example, I want to look straight at the front of whatever I'm working on, I can do that. So I just clicked on it and then hit a shortcut key called N, which is normal, which doesn't matter. But anyway, it makes it focus on whatever you're selected. And then I've also got some arrow key functions. So if I press, I'll try and get it at a good view. If I press the up and down, left and right arrows, it just turns the object in that direction. So right now I'm pressing left, and you can see the left side moving to the back and then coming back around to the front. And then if I press right, the left side going around the right side coming to the front. And then up puts the top towards the back from the top, and down puts the bottom towards the back from the top. Generally, I think it seems like it makes sense to start with one dimension when you're first starting out with this. And then there's another feature called panning, which is just, just being able to move the screen side to side. So the keyboard shortcut for that is Shift with your arrow keys. You don't need that too much. The other one that I use all the time is Zoom. So if I press Z, it zooms me out, which is usually the way I want to go. If I press Shift Z, it zooms me in. Generally, I need to zoom out because I've dropped something off the edge of my screen. So once I've got sort of a front of this thing selected, I'm going to create something. So this is where I got stuck right to begin with. You can see when you put your mouse over Sketch, it brings up a little pop-up. If I click on Sketch, it's going to take me to Sketch over here on the left with this little window, and sometimes it'll say front plane, sometimes it'll say sketch plane, please select a sketch plane. It will not let you do anything until you pick a plane for your sketch, which is why I'd said maybe starting with the front. So I can click on front, it automatically puts front there, and now I have sketch 1. While I'm here, my toolbar at the top has a bunch of drawing options. If I click the little green check mark, all those options go away, and I'm back to where I was to start with a bunch of options that don't really seem like they can do anything until you can draw. So I need to then go back into Sketch, and I think I need to double click it, get back into this area, and now I can choose my sort of normal drawing options. So I've got a line tool, which literally I can pick a spot, click, drag, let the mouse go, it draws a line. I can draw squares, corner rectangles, so I'm going to go from corner to corner. That's what most of us are used to when we're drawing on computer stuff. And then I can also do these are just different ways of drawing that might be useful depending on what kind of thing you're trying to design. So if you need it to be centered around this point, but then you want to be able to adjust the size rather than having the top left corner and the bottom right corner being identified by your mouse position, that can be useful. If I want to clear something out, I just go somewhere. Okay, so to clear things out, to get back to your mouse selecting tool, you just click on what you've selected and it deselects it. Not terribly intuitive, but once you get it, it's not too bad. And then I can select just by using a click and drag. It gives me a little box, and then your regular delete, cut, all of that stuff just works. You've got circles, you've got some complicated arcs and different polygons and stuff that don't really matter too much as far as just being able to actually create something. So I've got this. I'm going to take this line out of here just so that it's not cluttered for the purposes of this video, and then I can move my square. So I've clicked on it. Oh no, I've got to select it first. So I can select my square, then I can click on it. Oh, no, I can't. Okay, there is a way to move this, really. I did find it at some point. see, this is the stuff that made me want to make this video. So I can, okay, there we go. So I can select the object, and then to move it, I have to be clicking on one of the selected things when I go to drag. There we go. So if I want to just drag and drop, once it's selected, I then need to be on something that's selected, which it's selecting. It'll select points and lines. It's not selecting the inside of the object at this point, because the inside of the object sort of doesn't exist to it, if that makes any sense. And then, so then I run into the problem where if I've only selected one line and then I click and drag it, oh, if I can do it, it just moves the one line. So if I want to move the whole shape, I need to either select the whole shape with this select, or I need to manually select at least 3 sides so that it moves. Oh, maybe oh yeah, so then I can only move it in the way of, anyway. What it does is it just moves things that you've told it to move, and will leave the other one dependent on those 3 things, but that's more complicated than we need to get. Okay, so we've got a square, rectangle, whatever. We can sort of get whatever shape we want using a bunch of tools. There's some fancy stuff over here that lets us set like making lines horizontal and vertical, perpendicular to each other, parallel. Coincident just means that they touch in some way. And then setting dimensions, so that's where you can say, you know, you want it so many centimeters or whatever. I'm not going to get into that here. And some other more complicated stuff. But once I've got a sketch, then I can hit my checkbox, and now I'm back to all of these options. So this is where we start to actually get into 3D stuff. So now if I click on the sketch, I'm just selecting the sketch layer, so I'm not actually selecting any one object. I can just click in the middle and it'll select that sketch 1. It highlights it over here. Extrude, revolve, sweep, and thicken. So these are the options that make this a 3D object. Extrude is probably the simplest one, but if you're only looking at it from one dimension, you don't actually see anything move. So I'm just going to tap my left button and my down button, and now all of a sudden you can see that when I look at it from the top and right a little bit, it's become a 3D object. So the orange line is showing me where my sketch was. This arrow is showing me how much I'm extruding it, and I can extrude it both directions, so I could do it negatively or positively. And extrude just literally means taking that shape and pushing it along a plane and filling all of that space. So this dark side is the exact dimensions of this orange outline, and then all I'm changing is how far away those 2 things are, and then that becomes a solid shape. So there's a bunch of options as far as how you do that. I don't really understand a whole lot of them, and I don't know that it really matters. You can set the depth with your keyboard here if you want to, rather than dragging the arrow with the mouse. So if you want it specific, it's easy to do that. And then change the parts to do before. I have no idea what that is. It's all good. And then I can also decide whether I want it to be a solid or never mind, we're just going to do solids. So then I can click my checkbox, and now I have a box, and I can look at it from all different angles and see that it's a box. And so this was the point where I was like, okay, finally I can actually make stuff on here. If I want to go back to that view of the front again, I can click front over here, or I could have selected front and pressed N. And I just want to show you one quick thing over here. Once you click on this little cube, these options in this 3rd section tell you what you're going to see in your object. So shaded is sort of the standard view that it gives you. Translucent is what we're used to seeing in like a geometry class where we've drawn the lines inside. Hidden edges visible shows you which ones are hidden, so that way we're be where you do like dotted lines or whatever. And then I like shaded with hidden edges because it shows me that it's a solid object, but it also still lets me see where those edges are underneath. So that's just useful for being able to sort of understand, oops, I want to get back to the front, understand what your shape is and what you're doing with it. So now that we have a shape, now we've got all kinds of options. So now I can have the extrude selected and do all kinds of things with it. So this fillet and camphor seem to be about the edges. So if I click this edge, oh, I've got something else selected. See, I've got a 2 on my mouse key there. That tells me that I've selected 2 things and I don't know what they are. So I can just click over in some white space, and then that'll be back to a 1, which tells me I've just selected this edge. Now I'm just going to move my screen so that we can see this edge change. And then I can go fillet, and you can see it changes to a curve. I've got all kinds of options. I can put this number bigger. It makes it a bigger sort of radius or something, some kind of fancy geometry. Again, I hit my green button, and now I've got, you can see it's added sort of an item over here, which is the fillet of this corner. Maybe it's a fillet. Anyway, if I go to my top view, oh, my front view, that's where I was, you can see now I've got the rounded corner there. So once you've got a shape, there's all kinds of things you can do with it, but I'm going to end this video now just so that you have some idea of how to actually create a shape in Onshape. And thanks for watching.